All right, let's talk about one of the most remote places on Earth, Rapa Nui. You probably know it as Easter Island. But I want you to forget the story you think you know, the one about a mysterious collapse, because what really happened is a story of radical, unbelievable reinvention.
So just picture this for a second. For hundreds of years, your whole world, your entire culture, has been protected by these giant stone ancestors, the Moai. They're the source of all power, all order. And then, they start to fall. One by one, they're pushed over, face down in the dirt. Your direct line to the past is just gone. What do you do?
For the people of Rapa Nui, this wasn't an ending. No way. It was a major turning point. I mean, they were facing a crisis that would have completely wiped out most societies. But instead of trying to rebuild the past, they did something wild. They created something brand new, all centered on a ridiculously dangerous competition for a single, fragile bird egg.
Okay, so to really get how big of a deal this was, we've got to rewind a bit. We need to go back to the moment their entire world just broke apart.
You see, the old world of Rapa Nui ran on something called mana. Think of it like a sacred energy, a divine power, a clan's authority, its status, its right to lead. It was all tied to building bigger and better Moai. These statues weren't just art. They were like spiritual power lines, channeling that mana from the ancestors to keep the land fertile and the people safe. Now, this didn't just happen overnight. It was more like a slow-motion catastrophe that took decades. New diseases brought by European ships started to weaken the social fabric. Then, as resources got scarcer, fights between clans got more and more intense. This led to a period called Uhrimo Mai, literally the statue toppling. Clans would go to war by desecrating each other's ancestors. It was the ultimate insult, a really violent end to the whole system.
But here's the key. The Rapa Nui people did not just give up and vanish. The old way of life, it just wasn't working anymore. So they did what survivors do. They innovated. They completely reorganized their social, their political, and their spiritual world from the ground up.
So, where did they turn? If they weren't building statues anymore, what was the new center of their world? Well, they shifted their focus to this absolutely dramatic new spot, the sheer sea cliffs of a ceremonial village called Orongo.
And the change was just radical. Think about it. They went from a system based on who your dead ancestors were to a high-stakes, real-time physical competition. Power wasn't something you inherited anymore. You had to earn it, and you had to re-earn it every single year. The symbol of power went from a colossal permanent stone statue to a tiny, incredibly fragile seabird egg.
And how did you earn it? By surviving this. Every year, each clan would send a champion to compete in this insane ordeal. You had to scramble down a 1,000-foot cliff, swim through a mile of shark-infested water, and then wait on a tiny little island for a specific bird to lay the very first egg of the season. And if you got it, you had to do the entire trip in reverse with that egg perfectly intact. Get that egg back unbroken, and you just made your clan the most powerful on the entire island for a year.
Now, the winner of this race wasn't just crowned king. Oh no, he became something way more important for the island's ability to just keep going. He became the Tangata Manu, the Birdman. For a whole year, he was considered sacred, like a living vessel for their creator god, Mekmeke. And his clan? They got political authority. They controlled the resources. The Birdman was the island's living, breathing connection to the divine.
I mean, this was an absolutely brilliant piece of social engineering. The whole Birdman ritual, it was a survival strategy. It replaced bloody, endless civil war with a contained, symbolic fight for power. It was a way to decide who's in charge and who gets the resources without actually killing each other and tearing the society apart. It was pure, genius-level adaptation.
And this innovative system, it worked. It could have lasted for generations, who knows? But Rapa Nui's greatest challenge wasn't something they could solve with a competition. A new threat was coming, and it came from far, far across the ocean.
And this, right here, is the part of the story that so often gets completely missed. The Birdman cult, this incredible cultural adaptation, it didn't fail. It wasn't flawed. It was working. But it was about to be utterly destroyed by forces it couldn't possibly have prepared for.
111. In 1862, Peruvian slave raiders showed up. They kidnapped hundreds of islanders, including most of the leaders and the elite. That, plus the diseases like smallpox they brought with them, it just decimated the population. After just a few years, only 111 people were left on the entire island.
And the slave raiders, they specifically took the smartest and most powerful people, the chiefs, the priests, and, tragically, the last few people who knew how to read and write rongo, Rapa Nui's unique and still undeciphered script. When they died, it was like the island's entire hard drive of cultural memory was just wiped clean, forever.
So, the Birdman ritual didn't stop because it was a bad system or the society was collapsing on its own. It stopped because there was basically no one left alive to do it. This amazing cultural solution was cut short by a brutal external event.
Today, the giant Moai are standing again, re-erected for tourists and for us to wonder at. But if you go high up on the cliffs of Orongo, you can still see the stone carvings of the Birdman. They tell a very different story. They're a quiet testament to a society that refused to break, a people who literally reinvented their world to survive, only to be nearly erased by the outside world. And it leaves you with this really profound question. We always think survival is about food and resources, but what if it's really about knowledge? And what does a culture do when its memory is stolen?